Welcome to the Gamescape, everybody. My name's Jeric, and today we're back in Chaos Gate Demon Hunters. This is my guide on the Purifier class. And today we're going to be taking a look at this guy, seeing what he's good at, seeing what he's not so great at, maybe how to kit him out, and kind of how you can help him out with the rest of your squad mates. So let's go ahead and dive on into this guy's abilities. As usual, we're going to take a look at his personal ability. He is +2 armor when using his Aegis shield. That's actually a pretty good ability for a Purifier, this particular one, mostly because he's an up close and personal type with that heavy flamer, and so he's going to be right in the thick of it almost all the time. So that's kind of not a terrible ability for him to have, so that's good. If we were building this guy out, that probably wouldn't influence our build too much. It's just a nice to have, but still keeping it in mind, you can definitely afford to get a little bit up close and personal with these guys. So downside to these guys right away is they do have to get close, and they can't wear Terminator armor, so they don't really get a ton of extra protection as far as that goes, but that's okay. Like most other classes, you kind of have to decide right at the start how you want to build this guy out. Now obviously he's intended to have the flamer, and that's kind of his shtick. However, that said, there is an entire side to this skill tree that we're going to look at that's dedicated to melee combat, and he actually makes an okay melee combatant. He's not as good as some of the other classes maybe, but he's got some interesting ideas and some ways to augment his damage. So we're going to take a look at both. But let's start out with the bread and butter of this class, and that is the flamer. So the flamethrower is well, it's a heavy weapon, and you do have to be specialized in it. It's a two-handed weapon for this guy, so if he's got it, he can't carry a melee weapon. Base is damage 4 with a range of 5 on a 60-degree arc. So this thing always has the area of effect. You don't have, even just its normal shot does an area of effect attack. First up is the Incinerator abilities, is the +1 range. So now you're up to range 6 at 60 degrees. This one, you can gain a +10 on your arc, so it's a 70-degree arc. The Overwatch cone for the rest of your knights is 7 long, 30 degrees wide. So this thing is quite a bit bigger than that. It's not quite as far. The range isn't quite there, but it's twice as wide. And so it's covering a good area, especially 70 degrees. That's a decent amount. This one adds +1 damage to it, so it goes up to base 5. And that's, 5 damage to everything that it hits, obviously, too. So that's a good thing. And then you've got Vengeance, which is when this knight's ammo kills 3 or more enemies in a single attack, you gain 1 willpower automatically, 1 action point, sorry, automatically. Normally, these types of abilities are an auto with like a 50% chance. This is an auto with a 100% chance. It's going to happen. Now, lining up 3 kills, maybe that's not quite so easy, right? Because especially later, you're going to be later in the game when you're playing with Purifiers, and so your targets are going to be tougher, harder to kill, and so that's going to be something that's maybe not as easy as you would think, but still the opportunity is there. You can take it and you can get the free action point, and anytime you can get a free action point, of course, is a good time. So that's what you got basically on your first setup here. Coming down into the bottom part of the tree here, we got upgrades to the Incinerator. This one gives it knockback, which is an interesting ability. Is it good? I don't know. This guy already needs to be close. I don't know if knocking things back is necessarily what he wants, but it can do it. And so affected targets are violently pushed away by 3 squares, as long as they're not immune to knockback, of course. Things like Plague Marine Terminators are immune, and some of the other bigger stuff is immune to knockback, so that's okay. This one is quite good. This one gains the Afflict Blinded at 100%, but look at this. It's for infinite turns. This is permanent blindness, which is a really, really nice debuff to have on the enemy. So -2 damage to all their ranged attacks for basically forever. Now they can resist, obviously, and maybe it's not going to stick, but if they don't resist it, then they're just blinded and they're not going to recover from that. So that's really good. That's a really great ability right there. This one adds +1 damage per ammo. That's going to take into account the special ability of the flamer, where it can burn all of its ammo for extra damage on a shot. And so we'll take a look at that too when we take a look at the heavy flamer itself here. After we get done with the skills, we'll look at the equipment. Then we got some extra will points here, three will points here, not 2, so that's good. Up here in the top, we've got the astral aim ability, same as what you have for the Purgator. However, it's at short range, right? So your maximum range is 5 because that's the max range of your weapon. You're dealing 4 damage, precision targeting, 100% crit, no stun. Also, you get to choose to destroy a body part. You can warp charge it to give it armor piercing. Armor piercing, okay. I've talked about this in some of my other class videos. Armor piercing is okay if your guy can take down the target by himself. Otherwise, it doesn't really help your squad out, and they have to chew through all that armor to help him out too. Now, if everybody's got armor piercing, then you're good, right? Doesn't matter. But and most classes can get armor piercing in one way or another, it seems like. So I guess maybe if you wanted to build out a squad around the idea of armor piercing, then that would be certainly a good way to go. Hadn't really thought about that up until about right now. But it's probably a valid tactic. You could probably do that if you wanted to. Up here we got extra damage, +1 on the crit damage, which is auto crit. And then you've got rapid reload. This again, really good ability for anybody with a heavy weapon, and especially a heavy weapon that can drain all of its ammo in one shot, like the flamer can. So this is once per turn, 50% chance that the knight's ammo reaches 0. It's going to have automatic reload. That's an action point that you do not have to spend reloading, which is, again, just as good as getting a extra action point. So that's your flamer abilities, and pretty good all around. Up here at the top, we've got Cleansing Flame. Target a blast over area 3, range 10, purge 25%, inflict burning for 3 turns. I've said this in my previous videos. If you haven't seen them, you're going to hear it again now. I'm not a fan of burning as a attack, because number 1, it doesn't do very much damage in the grand scheme of things, and number 2, that damage that it does do happens after the enemy gets their next turn. And so even if the 2 points of damage that you're going to do to the enemy with the burning is going to kill him, he's still going to get his shot at you before he goes down. So it's too slow, it's not enough damage, and hopefully he's dead anyway before he gets his next turn. But if not, then I guess it's something. It's not nothing, but it's also not good, I don't think. And spending skill points on it to get it, I don't know if it's worth it. But we're going to keep looking here. This one and this one over here increase the purge ability. Purge removes any mutations that the enemy has. So this gets up to 100% if he warp charges. Starts at 25. Here's another 25 here for 50. Warp charge for another 50. 100% chance to purge. Then right here, all flame afflictions caused by the Purifier become permanent. Now again, is that good? I don't know if it's worth dropping 3 or 4 skill points to get. I guess that's up to you. And maybe you've got a use for burn that I don't really know about. And I suppose if you get enough people burning, then it's kind of extra damage that your other Marines don't have to do over time. But again, hopefully your Marines aren't staying in this fight for this long, and they're just killing everything very quickly. That's the ideal situation, and the burning doesn't even come into play. But it's okay. I don't think it would be worth it. If I were to build this out, I wouldn't be going for this, I don't think, because I'm just not that big of a fan of burn damage. Now down here, on the other hand, is something that's quite good. We talked about in the Purifier video, the Purgator video, that he makes a good Grenadier. Well, this guy does it better slightly. He gets the extra grenade slot right away when you get into here. So he gets an extra war gear slot to equip grenades. You can equip 2 different types of grenades in your 2 war gear slots if you wish to do so. You cannot equip the same type of grenade in both slots, however. So you get the extra grenade slot. This one gives you extra damage, +2 damage on your grenades. This is really quite good. Grenades already do a decent amount of damage. Adding +2 to that over that area of effect is probably going to be nice for anything you want to do. +2 ammo to your grenades here. I believe, if I remember correctly, the Purgator gets 2 +1 ammo slots, and I don't think they get the extra damage. And then this one gives you the extra area on your grenade, which the Purgator also gets. So slightly better as a Grenadier even than the Purgator is. And this is actually really nice, because this gives you a backup weapon that has a bit better range than your flamethrower does. So if you can't get into the fight immediately on the first turn because you just don't have enough movement points to get there and actually do something, you got the option of hucking a grenade and getting some help in there that way. So Extra grenades, good, lots of ammo, and so also good, and it's just a little bit more flexibility. Now, the other interesting thing about this class is it actually has some okay melee abilities, and I know the first thing you're thinking about when you think of Purifier is not putting a melee weapon in this guy's hand, but let's take a look. So right here, the first thing on the center wheel, target knight's force strikes gain purge 100% when afflicted. The target loses all of their mutations. 100% purge on their force strikes is really good if you're having problems with mutations kind of getting out of control. There are some of the enemies in this game that can get a new mutation every turn, and if you can't get to them right away for some reason, they can be quite mutated by the time you actually do get to them, and they can be quite strong. This will just strip all that right off of them. And again, they have resistance potential to they have the potential to resist that if they have high enough resistances. But when we get into this, it gets a little bit even better. So over here, we continue with our melee weapons. This one gives plus 10% crit chance, which is always great. And then this one and the top one here both give a plus 15% chance to any affliction. Now, you're already 100% here, right? Now you're 130%. What's the difference? Well, again, resistances. If the guy that you're after that's mutated has 100% resistance, then now he has a chance to be afflicted even with that 100% resistance, because your affliction chance is higher than 100%. So that's a decent thing. This one right here is a little bit interesting on its own. When an enemy moves adjacent to the knight, deal 1 damage, armor piercing with no stun. This can trigger 3 times per turn. Why is this good? It's free damage, and like I was saying, you're going to be in the thick of things, whether you're melee or carrying a flamer. And so being able to trigger damage automatically when something comes up next to you, even that 1 point, isn't the worst thing. But it gets a little bit better if we look right here, because down here in the unstoppable conflagration skill, he gets, I'm going to come back to this one in just a second, but he has this other one here where he gets extra damage per soul trigger blaze, which is this ability here. So every time this thing triggers, he gets a +1 damage bonus to everything, basically all of his damage. And so this one and this one are going to start stacking and working together if you get them both. And now you're doing 2 damage, 3 damage, plus all of your attacks are doing extra damage too. And so that holds for a turn. Per use. Okay, so that's good. Down here, you got when you use a psychic ability, you gain a plus damage. So psychic abilities are Aegis Shield, right? Anytime you warp charge your weapon, that's a psychic ability. So every time you're warp charging, you're stacking more damage. Again, this one can trigger 3 times per turn as well. So this is another potential +3 damage per turn if you got the action points to get it all done. And then you get some resistances here, which are okay. And then this one is both of these are resistances. So you're basically plus 35% resistances here. So these kind of stack together and not too bad. And then we get up into here. We got your hammer hand ability, which is your normal auto crit ability for melee. This is the same one that the Justicar has and that the Interceptor has. So you can choose to get an auto crit. If you warp charge it, you're going to give burning 100%. And again, that's going to be stacked up with these two because that's an affliction. So you get up to 130% if you've got these other 2% chance to afflict burning for 2 turns. And if you've gone here, then you're permanent burning, right? So again, I don't know if it's worth all that for burning for 2 damage per turn, but it's there and it's a thing, so it's okay. This ability gains +2 crit damage and some extra hit points here in this last box. So if you're going to build out one of these guys, like I said, you kind of got to choose because you're not going to have enough points to do both well. And then also maybe pick up the grenades as extra bonus. I don't think you're going to go wrong by getting grenades on this guy. So that's kind of the loadouts. Let's take a look at the gear real quick and I will kind of talk about what does this guy want. So first of all, let's take a look at the Incinerator itself. Like I said, the base model is damage 4, range 5 with a 60 cone. and you get up to range 6 and plus 70 degree cone with those extra abilities. 3 ammo, and so that's just your normal shot. Normal shot's a cone, 4 damage, everybody in the cone. Flames of Purity, you activate this. This is like your warp charge ability basically on your flamer. Deal +1 damage per 2 ammo spent, depletes all the ammo. Now, if you remember when we were looking back here at the abilities, let me get back to the abilities real quick. Down here, this one right here, ability gains +1 damage per 1 ammo. Okay, so that's where this comes into effect, right? So you're getting extra damage on top of the Flames of Purity damage you're already doing. So you spend 3 ammo, that's an extra 3 damage, right, to everybody in the cone. So that's where that comes into play. Ranged weapons is where we were at. Incinerator. All right, so you got that. You have the Prometheum spray. Set a flame hazard over arc 60 at range 3 +1 per 2 ammo spent for 1 turn, depletes all ammo. This basically puts a burn patch on the ground. Again, not a fan of that. I don't know how. Okay, let me caveat that. I don't know exactly how the AI treats burn patches because I didn't really ever use them in my games. Maybe it avoids them, and that's fine. And if it doesn't, I guess they're burning, and they'll take some damage at the end of their turn, and that's okay too. So it's probably not your best use of all of your ammo, but you know what? In a pinch, if you need to blockade something, I guess it's a chance to do so anyway. So that's kind of the Incinerator. You're not going to put anything else in this guy's hands, I don't think. He can use other weapons, I believe, but he's not going to gain any actual skill benefits from them. Like you can put a Storm Bolter on his arm, you can put a Psy Cannon in his hands if you want, but he doesn't get any benefits from his skills for these weapons, really. So it's basically Incinerator or bust with this guy if you're going ranged. If you're going melee, then obviously you can get the melee weapon and you can put the Storm Bolter on his arm and he's going to be good there. So that's okay too. So for armor, this guy uses power armor. What this guy really wants is speed, because he has to get there to get the damage done. So if you're going to give anybody plus speed armor, this is your guy that's going to want it the most, probably. He's fairly willpower efficient. He's not using a ton of will points. He's not as willpower hungry as a lot of the other classes are. I would not probably bother putting will point armor, plus will armor on this guy. Like I say, he really wants that speed most of all. And anything that you have that actually also adds armor, any upgraded power armor suits that add armor, probably are going to be good for him as well. Another interesting one would be something like this, where you got the extra grenade slot, passive equipment slot, I guess. Sorry, that's not it. There, I had a suit of grenade armor suit of armor that added grenades, and it might not be in this game, I guess. But anyway, there is armor out there that adds ammo capacity to your grenades and maybe extra range and stuff like that. So if you're going with the Grenadier side on this thing, or even if you just have grenades, if you just get that extra war gear slot, that might be a consideration for this guy too. Focus, I don't think he needs, because he's already got something that's buffing his afflictions, and he doesn't really have too much else. He does have the auto reload, but that one, I don't know if you're really gonna waste your focus gear on just that. Other classes can use it better. Interceptors can for sure. Probably your Justicar can as well, and a few others probably too. So probably you don't want to put your focus armor on this guy. Like I said, look for the plus speed armor. Anything that gives a bonus to his speed is going to be great. When it comes to your war gear, honestly, grenade with this guy is never a bad choice. Medicae skull's always a good choice too. All of the skulls are decent, really. There aren't too many skulls that aren't a good choice, I don't think. But if you need to carry something, if you need grenades, this guy's good at using them, especially if you skill into him. He's not gonna hurt to have one. If you have the grenade slot and you don't want to carry 2 grenades, a good thing for him is a servo skull of some kind, a disruptor skull or a decoy skull, and the name of that is escaping my brain for the second. Would be fine. Even just a Medicae skull is good for him. So lots of good options here. I don't think he needs the incense burner, but you can absolutely put one on him if you're finding that you're having willpower issues. He gets decent willpower bonuses right at the start too. He's got +4 right on his middle circle, so that's not terrible. That kind of covers the gear, I think. Let's talk about the rest of your squad. What does this guy want? Again, speed. Apothecary is this guy's best friend with the warp speed biomancy. That +2 speed, along with a little bit of help from maybe his armor. He's going to be up to, instead of having speed of 5, he's going to be up to 8 or 9, right? With that, now he's got the speed he needs to get to where he's going. Same story with a librarian and his ability to use Infinity Gate and move the entire squad with a teleport. A great ability. We'll talk about that when I do the librarians video, which is going to be coming up soon. But that's an amazingly good ability for everybody, but this guy especially benefits from it because he just has to get so close to do anything real with his weapons. So he's going to be loving that. But if you don't have the librarian, or you don't want to spend the tons of willpower that it costs to use Infinity Gate all the time, plus speed armor, plus warp speed biomancy, going to be really great for this. Forget about the critical plus critical damage on the melee. He doesn't even care about that. He's just interested in that speed boost. So that's going to be a good thing for him to get him into the fight. And another really interesting one for this guy too is the Purgator's ability to add damage with Spirit Weapon. And if you're running a Purgator and a Purifier, you're going to be, that's an interesting combination that I haven't really worked with. But the Purgator, if you've seen my video and if you remember, has the ability to basically dump all of his ammo to give another knight at any range a bonus to damage based on how much ammo was spent out of his weapon. And that extra damage, normally it's not that great of a thing because it costs an action point and like 2 or 3 will points to activate that, plus then you have to reload, so that's another action point. But when you get it with somebody with a flamethrower or silencer as well, that area of effect benefits from that bonus damage. If you got multiple targets, you're doing that extra damage to all of the targets in that, and it actually adds up to be quite a lot of damage. And so this guy, along with a Purgator running that ability side by side, are going to be a big threat, and they're going to be able to do a lot of damage, or this guy's going to be able to do a lot of damage with the Purgator's help. And the Purgator in that case doesn't even have to have a Psycannon. He can have a silencer and be at range, and running and gunning at range with that silencer, and he gives this guy the extra damage. This guy gets in there and just hoses everybody down with extra damage flamethrower. It's going to be a roasty toasty barbecue, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So that's another really cool idea that you can use for this guy. One of the things you are going to have to be careful of, though, is this guy is going to be running in, and he is going to be getting close, and he's going to be vulnerable to counterattack. So make sure that you're getting his Aegis shield put up if you can, especially if you can pre-buff him before a fight. And I talked about that in my 10 tips and tricks video for tactical combat. If you haven't watched that, take a look too. Pre-buff this guy before combat kicks off. Get that Aegis shield up, because he's going to go running in there, and then he's going to be a target. So having that extra armor in place is going to be great for him. He would also be a good candidate if you have a Justicar that has the Fortress ability where they can transfer all their armor to another knight. This guy would be a prime candidate to receive that armor, because again, he's going to be right in the middle of everything, and he's going to be stirring up the hornet's nest, and they're going to want him dead. So that's another idea for this guy too. So all in all, the Purgator is not my favorite class. I'm not gonna lie about that. I didn't really use them in my playthrough, hardly at all. I found that they weren't as dependable as the Purgator itself was. The Purifier's not. And so the Purifier isn't my favorite. He's got some interesting ideas. I think he suffers a little bit because he does have such a lack of range, but all of the classes have benefits and drawbacks. But I think maybe the Purifier's drawbacks almost outweigh his benefits. That's just my personal opinion, though. As always, you guys have your own play styles. I recognize this, and I don't ever want to say that this guy is the absolute worst, because you guys think of things that I don't, and I'm sure you guys' play styles differ enough for mine that maybe this guy is perfect for your squads. And so there's some ideas on how to use him, how to kit him out, and how to get your rest of your team to help him out. And I think if you do get some of those synergies going, you can get him in there and you can get some real damage done with this guy. That's going to do it for this video though, guys. If you've enjoyed this, do me a big favor, hit that like button. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button too. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.